Welcome to the latest episode of Pagecast. My name is Arini Vlotman. I'm a romance author and huge fan of all things romance related. So I am quite happy to be here with Nivashni Nair Sukdhev, author of It's Complicated. This is the latest rally romance book 2 in the series to hit our shelves. So I'm excited to be talking to you, Nivashni. Please introduce yourself to our audience and tell us who you are.
Thank you, Arini. So I'm Nivashni Nair Sukdhev, and I will just start off by saying that I am a girl who loves books. I am a hard news journalist who, by day, I'm writing hard news stories, but on the sidelines, I'm writing stories with happy endings, hunky heroes, and very, very brave heroines. So I come from KwaZulu-Natal. I live in Durban. I've always wanted to be a writer. This is my 7th book, and it's the second in the Rally Romance series.
I am so excited to be speaking to you today. But the first thing I want to ask you, hard news journalist meets romance author, right? That's quite a dynamic. So I know that we wear lots of hats, and as human beings, we have lots of interests, but those are seemingly two polar opposite aspects of a personality. Where do those two parts of you meet? Do they meet?
They do not, because writing romance has always been pure escapism for me. So just an example, I write my romance stories on my phone, whereas my day job, I write on my laptop. And I don't ever write my stories on my laptop because my laptop is for work. So hard-hitting hard news has always been my job, but writing romance is my passion. And it's an escapism from my day job. So they don't ever meet.
Okay, so I see how that works, because I've read quite a few of your stories. And the news by the very concept is not always the greatest thing to be reading. But, we do need to be aware of what's happening in the country. And there's things happening all the time that is, it can be depressing, and it hits your soul. So to have something else that feeds your soul, I think, is where these come in, and we are lucky to get that part of you, because not a lot of people can disassociate from the negative and spin it into something positive.
Absolutely. And the reason why romance is because there's always happy endings. Yes, in the books, there are challenges that you would see every day that people face in any relationship and are very real, but there is very little news aspect to it. So I may use my job as a journalist to observe people. So a lot of my books is what I've observed in society as a journalist, but I never ever have a crossover.
I think that's why I thoroughly enjoy reading romance in all its subgenres. But contemporary romance gives us the ability to relate to stories. Like, I could never relate to a Victorian heiress, for example, who's marrying a duke. I love it, and I could escape. But contemporary romance gives us the ability to look at things from a different lens, to escape as well. And escapism, so I've read quite a few of your books, and the way you help us escape, even though we are in the reality of your story, like when you describe certain aspects, the airports, for example, like in this book, I know what that looks like. But it is not the awful, sluggish airport that I'm used to. It's one where, anything could happen. So that escapism, when you are writing, is it difficult to get into that mode, or does it just flow? Does it just happen when you imagine that airport?
So a lot of people wouldn't believe it because, as you know, my books are written on my phone. And it's not in a setting that a usual writer would be writing in. And a lot of people don't believe it when I say it just flows. I do imagine what is going to happen before I get to that point, but it literally just flows. And I have no plan. In my writing, I have no plots. I have no plans.
No.
I haven't written chapters. I don't know where it's going. The characters just speak. And when it came to the airport, I fully understand what you mean. It's nothing like what we would think, but that's only because you are indirectly focused on the character and you being them and you seeing it through their eyes. And the other thing with romance is you really want to escape. You don't want to think about sitting in an airport that's gritty and long lines, just, as an example. So it is pure escapism.
Okay, so it sounds like, so I'm going to get back to where you said that you write on your laptop because you associate that with your day job or your other job. And you write on your phone to distance yourself from that and get into this. And that's probably how you are able to escape, because mentally you are in this world that you are creating word by word, line by line, sentence by sentence. And then you are bringing us into it, which is, and this is not something that happens easily. By default, we think of books being something that we're just going to escape into. But I always see when a writer, and this is because, I'm sure you are the same. I've been reading romance books for as long as I was allowed to read romance books, and sometimes even a little bit before then. I can see when the writer has changed or something has happened or something has disjointed in the story. And that's only because I've read so much. I don't get that in your books. Everything seems to flow, and it makes me wonder how quickly you write.
So Pillow Talk was done in 2 weeks, and that was because I had the story in my head and I had to get it out. And the story followed me. It followed me on the drive home. It followed me while I was cooking. It followed me when I got to bed. These characters, they just, people would think I'm crazy, but they wouldn't stop talking. And I had to get the story out. It's complicated. As soon as Pillow Talk was done, I started on it because when a character emerged from Pillow Talk, Kaavi Archary, there was no way that I couldn't tell her story. I just knew that when she first appeared in Pillow Talk, that this woman has a secret. She is beautiful. She is somebody who has this career, but she's got a secret. And there was no way that I couldn't tell it. So I quickly started writing that. And if I remember correctly, it's complicated. Maybe the first 5 chapters was done in a weekend. And then it went over for a week and I stopped for a while because It's Complicated is very complicated. It's very emotional. So I stopped to get my bearings and to also understand the character, because Kaavi wasn't just one-dimensional. She has so much going on that I couldn't understand as an author. She has emotional issues that I do not experience. So I had to research that. So I would say It's Complicated was about 3 weeks.
Okay. I expected you to say maybe a year. But then you go from 2 weeks to 3 weeks. So with research, with pausing, with stewing in her character. Okay, kudos to you.
Thank you.
You said that It's Complicated is complicated. And I have to tell you that when a title is an Easter egg to the book in different ways, different meanings, my little romance heart swoons. This book, though, was unexpected in so many ways. So I had read Pillow Talk last year when it was released, and I read it again just before It's Complicated was released because I just wanted to familiarize myself with the characters. And I did not read the little excerpt you gave us in the back to give us an idea of what was happening in the next book, because I was like, I can't wait for so long not knowing that it's coming out. So I did read it, and then I immediately had to hit this one, right? So how did you come up with the title?
So throughout the book, the 2 characters, when anybody asks them what's their relationship to each other, they reply, It's Complicated. So it was just a given, then that had to be, the book. And also when I was talking about it, because most of my books, when I write them, I speak about it to my husband and he gives me his input, or he's just somebody like a sounding board. And when I was telling him about this, and I was in the room, it was a weekend, and as I said, typing furious on my phone, and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I kept saying, "It's complicated. It's complicated, It's really complicated. I will talk to you later." And even now, despite this is my 7th book, he knows all my other stories. He does not know this one, because when he says to me, "What is it about?" I say, "It's complicated."
Do you remember when, okay, this is going to be giving away our age, right? But do you remember when Facebook had a relationship status button? And one of it was, "It's complicated." And if somebody changed their status and we looked at it and everybody would be like, "Oh,
It's
what's
exactly
happening there?" And it is exactly that. My nieces tell me that it's now called a situationship, which does not come close to what this means for
Yes.
our generation, right?
Absolutely.
It is, and it is complicated, and I love that they answer that way. But every time you see the words, it has a different connotation, right? It could mean anything in any given situation, and I love that. 2 words scattered randomly, said by different people in so many different ways. So yeah, I really, really love that. And that brings me to something else that I wanted to talk about, is a book is an experience, right? So from the cover, when we see the title and we see the cover and the beautiful colors, and we get an idea of the characters that we're going to see, and then we open up and we see your playlist. And I saw the playlist and I was like, oh my gosh, there was one song here that reminded me of first love and why I fell in love with romance, right? And on the playlist, it just already gave me this warm feeling of, oh, this is going to be the book. This is going to be the book. I want to know from this playlist, which is your favorite song?
It's going to have to be It Must Have Been Love by Roxette, because Roxette is my favorite band.
Did you see her?
I went to all the concerts, yes.
Oh, love, 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 love them. It's all coming back to me now. Celine Dion.
Oh, so you must remember that I write my books while waiting in the car for my son outside his school. So all my books on my phone written in the school drop-off zone, pickup zone. So when these books are coming into my head, I'm driving towards my destination, and this is my playlist. So all of the songs that are there, I listen to on my playlist daily. So that's how it makes it into the book. But with that song, how could it not be?
Yeah.
You have 2 people who were married in secret, meeting after 2 years. If Celine Dion is not saying it's all coming back to me, I mean, who would? So it definitely, and when you get to halfway to the book and you play that song, oh, you cry.
Okay. I'm going to do that. So like I went and I made my own It's Complicated playlist based on this. And for 1 or 2 songs, I mean, I just had to repeat it. And I think I'm going to now give it a second read with this in mind and see if I can match the songs to the chapters. And that gives me, like what I was talking about, experience and the way you view a book from cover to cover. And that is something that I really, really felt a lot of in this book. And I said it's unexpected, right? Because I had just come out of reading Pillow Talk, and you have expectations. Your voice is strong. So if somebody had to give me just the inside without your name, I think I would have guessed that the voice is yours. I would not have guessed how layered and complex Savi's story is. So without any spoilers, Savi blew me away.
So I didn't expect it either. And when you said that, everybody, since the book got onto the shelves, I've been receiving messages on social media from readers, which I love getting. But literally everybody who has read it come back to me and say, I've cried. I can't believe this. I never expected that from myself as well, because as I said, Kaavi's a supermodel. She's somebody who, it's supposed to be the normal formula of a romance book. Boy meets girl, girl meets boy, there's a conflict, they resolve it, they get together. But this, I don't know where it came from, but this character was so strong that I cried for her. As I said, in the 3 weeks when I stopped to do the research, it was mostly because I got emotional for her. And then it's never, ever like me in my 6 books, because 6 are romance, to not like the hero from the beginning. Usually I'm in love with them from the first page. They're my book boyfriend, and I'm already in love with them and I focus on them. But I did not like Neel. I did not like him from the
No,
get-go.
I'm gonna fight.
And then when Neel showed up in his true sense, I started to realize, oh my God, I know why I don't like this guy, because he's so honest. He's so real. And that's why you didn't expect this with It's Complicated, because it's real. And everybody who's read it thus far has said to me, this is so real. This could be people in my life. This could be my cousin. And I think that's why, despite it being a romance, everybody thinks romance is just fluffy. This book, it takes you out of your comfort zone, but it also makes you realize that love is complicated. Well, it's complicated. So.
It is real relationships, and I think a lot of romance writers struggle with that element of fantasy, and especially in contemporary romance, and the everyday things that we see and experience. Some things we have to suspend disbelief. But Neel, so he's quiet, right? He's an observer. He is not hasty in his reactions. The amount of patience that this man has, right? He was everything that Savi needed. She didn't know that she needed it. So at that one stage, I was like, man, you are bringing the vibe. You are exactly what she needs. I just want to tell Savi that you need Neel in your life. We all need Neel in your life. How did you temper or balance Savi with Neel?
So the inspiration for Neel, halfway through I realized, is actually my husband. Because he is quiet. He is always the tallest person in the room, and that is Neel as well. He's the tallest, but the quietest. He listens before responding, and that is Neel. And he is level-headed. And halfway through, I realized that this character I knew very well, and I knew how to complement Kaavi's experience with him. And so here you had somebody who, just an example, when she says to him, you know something, and he says, no, I don't. Usually when you tell somebody, you give an example, I don't like this, that person, you'll say, yeah, no, I know. But people rarely will say, no, I don't. And Neel is honest. So I had to give them both personalities that were unique but complemented each other. Because at the end of the day, in reality, that's exactly how relationships are. I may not be like Kaavi. I may not be, as emotional as her or have any back issues, but I'm scatterbrained. I'm arty, so I do my own thing. I live with my head in the clouds at times, sometimes in romance books. But I'm married to somebody who's really level-headed and completely different. And so in the book, I needed to show, like in Pillow Talk as well, that two characters can exist and can have basically chaos that can be managed to actually be in love.
I think of chaos and I think of the baking scenes in this book. I'm so sorry. That all I could think of was those baking scenes. It's almost like that was an element to their romance and the way that they clashed, because I could see it clearly how it was a disaster every single time they tried it. It was the sweetest thing, and it was those moments that you needed to balance out some of the experiences that they were going through. I mean, there's a point in the book where it gets really rough. But are you a kitchen disaster or are you a chef? What are you like in the kitchen?
I'm not consistent. So I will make you the best crab curry in the world. But on most days I'm reaching for Mr. Delivery. So so I'm not consistent, but I do love baking. I do, but I'm not consistent. So I do have the ingredients. I do. It's just that a lot of my time goes to writing and reading. So that's what I'm going to say. But when I do cook, I'm very good. I don't have disasters. But I'm not somebody who you're going to get a home cooked meal every day, you know.
My son and I wanted to bake the cupcakes. Yeah, I just want to say I am not a good baker either. So, yes, let's stick to reading and writing. And that is why there's Mr. Delivery.
Yes.
Because I really, really love that. And I'm thinking about Raleigh, the town, right? The town has become a character of its own with the likes and dislikes of like from the shop names to the reason why the town was named that, which is in accordingly different to different people, to the little like the statue. I told you about this in Pillow Talk. The statue, I wish that we had that statue in our lives. And in with Raleigh specifically, and they spend a lot of time walking the streets. She has some of her deepest, like most vulnerable moments outside in the town. And it's almost like a character. And I just want with all my heart to book my next holiday and go to Raleigh. So Raleigh is East Coast, right? East Coast of South Africa, an hour from Durban in whichever direction we're going. Have you found a town similar to this?
Yes. So Raleigh, I did not start. Raleigh is purely fiction. But as I started writing it in Pillow Talk, I realized that it was actually where I had lived when I was a young journalist. I was 20. I was a news reporter for a local newspaper in Scottsboro. I lived in Main Street above a shop that was a woman's boutique, and everything was walking distance. So I used to cross over the road to my newsroom. And Raleigh is Scottsboro. And so in Pillow Talk, Shona's flat is actually based on my flat. And Vulnerable Moments, with It's Complicated, I was 20 years old. I think I had a breakup. And I remember walking on Main Street, like crying. At that time, I think we used to have iPods or MP3 players. But I had one in my bag and the headphones. And I was walking on that street, passing the tackle shop and Spice Inn and all of that, which, you know, there's a tackle shop in Raleigh. So I know that Raleigh is based on Scottsboro. And I can guarantee that if I take a drive to Scottsboro now, I will see Raleigh. And because in my mind, it is Scottsboro. For many other people, it's many other places. But Raleigh is unique. And it's very hard for me not to want to go there, because it's just such a special place with special people.
I think travel and tourism is going to be really happy because we might just all be going to Scottsboro for the foreseeable future. I mean, Kaavi is not a small town girl, right? She's traveled all over the world, but she finds parts of herself that she needed to heal. She finds that in Raleigh, and I think when you tell me about the town and your experiences there, I can picture it even more than I have now. And the difference, like when you described them coming to Joburg, and it's not even visceral. It's like these layered ways that you describe small town, East Coast to Johannesburg, and I was wondering if that is your experience yourself of Joburg versus Durban.
Yes. So I was an intern here when I started journalism. It was actually, my office was actually in London. And Joburg life was very different for me because I came from KwaZulu-Natal, very community-based, very supportive family. And I was alone in Johannesburg. And I always have felt that way. And sometimes when we come up for holidays, when I see a road sign that takes me back to being that 19-year-old girl in Johannesburg alone, I feel a bit sad and anxious because I remember what it felt like being here. And then, in one of the scenes, Neel says, "Was his house ever this cold?" My house was always cold in Johannesburg, and I always feel that it was cold. So yes, I had to, I think that's what came across my own experience, as much as I always emphasize that the books have nothing to do with me. The characters are not based on me. A lot of myself filters in. So Scottborough, Johannesburg, and that is how I see Joburg, as a rushed place, cold, and just very different from Raleigh. And when you say that Kaavi found her peace in Raleigh, it wasn't so much the town, it was the people. And I think that it's an experience, it's to show the reader that you can find your peace amongst people who will rally around you.
I like that. I love that. The characters, so we met some of them in Pillow Talk. We got to know them a little bit more. I mean, some of them are so fun, so hilarious, supportive, random, completely say what they want to say. Who's your favorite side character? Oh, is that a difficult thing to ask? But you have to choose.
It's always going to be Senthil Iyer from the first Pillow Talk. I had a huge crush on him. And it's crazy that a woman in her 40s could have a huge crush on a character that she created. But there was just something about him. He had charisma, but he was just, I don't know what's the exact word, grounding. He grounded Shona. And I think that a lot of my books have strong heroines, women who are accomplished, but sometimes they need grounding from both sides, where the men are just as accomplished but need that as well. Plus, Zen was pretty hot,
We'll take it. I mean, there's the characters, and they have the character flaws, and there's the physical traits. But when everything comes together and they scream at you off the page, you know that if they're living in your mind, you're not going to forget that story. I remember there's this, you have to read Pillow Talk, right? And then it's complicated. It's 2 standalone romances in the Raleigh romance series. But they complement each other so well, because in here, this is what I love, is I see different aspects of the characters that were in Pillow Talk. Like I'm seeing a different side of them, right? A different lens. And that brings me to, so there's a lot of themes that come out quite strongly in It's Complicated, themes of found family and how you can get support, and a little bit of trauma. And it's all seen from a South African lens. It's in my opinion, it's worldwide relatable issues that women experience all the time, but from the lens of the South African perspective, like the cops and a little bit of the things that happen behind the scenes. And our characters, the side characters, come through from a different lens. What is your lens of what Kaavi went through? How did you, when you talked about research, so I don't want to say what you went through because, you have to read it for yourself. But tell me what your lens was like when you were writing and researching this.
It was actually from what I observe as a journalist. I have seen things that I don't think most people see. When people meet me for the first time and I say I'm a journalist, they always go, "That's so cool. It's so glamorous." Yes, I've met famous people. I've lived out my dreams. But on the flip side, I have experienced things where I have had to pick up the phone and interview a mother who has just lost her child. I have had to interview victims of abuse. And as you know, romance is the escapism for me. But in this story, as you said, it was an unexpected story. That observations actually filtered through. And that was the lens that I was looking from. So while a lot of it I had already seen in my job, the part that I had to research was the emotional part, because when I'm interviewing people for my job, I'm only interviewing and listening to what they're saying, but I'm not getting into their actual mind. So that was the research, but the lens was from being a journalist. So again, while they don't overlap, to some degree, my lens was being a journalist.
I always think that journalists protect us. The things that you have to experience and then give to the rest of us. There's such a big barrier there, and I'm so grateful for that. And that's what I'm grateful for in this book, is that, I mean, there's also that protective issue. Kaavi is protected by herself mostly. And then Neel comes in, and then the family comes in, and it's all these, like there was a moment where I had to stop, and I just felt like I was getting this warm hug from everybody in the story. So the way you transitioned it, the way you took us from like the 50% mark, which was gritty, right? And I just was like, okay, I need to read the next one, and I need to the end of the story. Are you a grand gesture fan?
So I do have like favorite movies where the grand gesture I will watch over and over. But I also feel that in real life, I'm not. I would just like somebody to be truthful in their approach of declaring love. So the younger me would have been all for, bring the flowers and run after me at the airport, stop the plane, that sort of thing. But the older me, who understands real life, knows that just going up to somebody and being truthful, because the reality is, readers hate this, and I get this a lot. They say, oh, this miscommunication thing. We don't like when authors have miscommunication in romance. But it's a reflection of reality, because in relationships, people miscommunicate all the time, and they miscommunicate the worst when they are trying to discover their feelings, and they now know how they feel about somebody, but they don't know what to do with it. So with grand gestures, I would just like the person to just come up and boldly say, I love you. I want to be with you,
Uh-huh.
If you want to bring flowers and maybe a stack of books, it's okay.
Yeah,
but
we both say no.
But yeah, it's just, I love you. End of story.
I love that. I love that. And the thing is, like, I think about when I first started dating, and when I would never go to somebody and say, well, I like you, or I love you, or are we going to date, or when are you going to ask me to marry you? I'll be like, you do the thing and I'll sit and wait. It just does not happen. That fear of the person rejecting you is so harsh. It's so scary. It's freezing. And when you are reading it, you're like, you just want to give them a little nudge. You just want to give them a little nudge. But I could see it. I could see it unfolding on the page, and I could see the way they were feeling. And I thought, oh, this is me. This is me and every other one of my friends that I know. Yeah. That is in a relationship.
And you got to realize that if there's no miscommunication and people from the get-go say, I love you, there's no book. That's a text. That's like somebody reading one of those 50 words text of a story. This is layered because it's real. And that's what writing is about. You taking a relationship and you putting it on paper. And if you write it well, it could be that you would see that person as your neighbor, or somebody that you know, or, so there's many books that I've read, and mine as well, that you actually believe those characters are real because their relationships are layered and portrayed as real. But the ones that are jetting off here, there, and he sent a helicopter to pick her up from work, they're lovely. They're lovely. We all want that. But it's not real, and it's definitely not a reflection of South African love.
Oh, yeah, none of us are ever going to experience that. So you talked about, like you just said now, some of the books that you've read. Who are the authors, or what are the books that have inspired you and your writing that you've delved into, or just, those books that stick with you for whatever reason?
Okay. So I have wanted to be a reporter and a writer from the time I was 6 years old. my parents, well, Father Christmas, got me a toy typewriter. So I used to type on it and I used to make up stories, but I used to also be a reporter at home. And I always wanted to do this. And then when we started going to the library when I was little, I discovered the love for reading. And, now as an adult, I'm not embarrassed to say that one of the books that stands out for me and will always be a book that is very precious to me, because at the time I was going through the same thing, is Judy Blume's God, It's Me, Margaret. So Judy Blume's books, and although it was for a kid and a young adult, those left a huge impression on me. As I got older, I still like the classics, Jane Austen. But now, I like a lot of romance that is quirky, that I don't have to think about, that takes me away from my day job. So Alina Jacobs, Lucy Score, all of those. And then I also enjoy, so like my playlist that you see in the book, you've got Elvis Presley, but then you've got The Weeknd on the same playlist. My reading is pretty much the same. I like Zeek Simda. So my reading is up and down, but Judy Blume definitely stands out for me. Despite, even now, as a grown-up, if I had to read that book, I would still feel it.
That familiar warmth of knowing what, and that's why I love romance, right? It's just is, you know what you're getting into, but then you get the unexpected where you can't predict it. And I feel like I need to read this book probably once or twice more, just because I missed a lot of the nuance. I could talk about It's Complicated for a very long time, but all I'm going to say is that you have to read this book. So it is out. The launch for Durban you had that a few weeks ago. We're launching it in Johannesburg, and it's going to be in the bookshelves already around the country. Please read it, and please reach out to us. Like, I'm inviting everybody on behalf of us to let us know what you think about this book. It is amazing. Nivashni, congratulations on not only writing something that is so close to us, but to reflecting what happens in South Africa and what happens to women. And thank you so much for the discussion and telling us a little bit about yourself. I mean, there's some vulnerable moments in this book and that you've told us, and I really appreciate the time. And on that note, right, we're wrapping up. There's a sneak peek at the end of this book. Should I ask you to give us her name, the sneak peek for the next story that you may be mulling over in your head?
I'm going to leave that to the reader. They read the book, they get it, and that's it. I think that's what makes it fun, having the first chapter of a next book in the current read, because as you're reading it, you don't know who it's going to be. I mean, nobody knew that when you read Pillow Talk, you know that it's Kaavi Archary's cousin, but you never expect that she's going to have her own book until you get to the first chapter of the second book at the end of the book. So this time I won't spoil it for the readers. Let them go and have a look and let them guess as they read along.
Okay, on that note, we are leaving on a cliffhanger.
And I hate cliffhangers, but I'm leaving on a cliffhanger.
Thank you so much for your time and good luck. I cannot wait to see what comes next. And thank you for giving us your stories. It's been a pleasure chatting to you.
Thank you very much.